Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dovecote episode. I have 50 written here. That's not right. 49 with Sean Rawley. It is November 18th, 2024 at 7:07 p.m. EST. You're watching the Dovecote episode 4. That's how I do it. That's the order I do it. I'm I'm experiencing a bit of a caffeine crash. This will be an interesting. Or you're getting a little jazzy with it, but welcome to the Dovecote episode 49 with Sean Rawley. Sean, please introduce yourself to my lovely audience.
Yes, would be happy to. Good afternoon, good evening, hello to everyone. My name is Sean Rawley. I am the head, we'll say, the talking head in this case, of Wizard Staffing Co., which is a cohort of GMs in the city of Chicago. We run tabletop games across the city at a number of partner locations, mostly breweries, restaurants, event centers, and try and keep our games as accessible as possible with regard to price. All of our GMs are compensated, but keep it pretty low so that folks can join in. And we love running indie TTRPGs. The draw, of course, is the dragon in the room, but we are finding ourselves kind of tipping the scales towards running more and more indie titles as well. So very happy to be on this channel and chatting a little bit more about indie TTRPGs and TTRPGs in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I, it's interesting. I knew that there was a pro jamming element to the work that you did. I don't know if I've mentioned this. I used to do pro jamming online for a little bit. I did start playing, and I found I found the experience somewhat miserable. Um,
Uh-oh.
because I found that there were a lot of expectations that I was kind of managing that
Oh,
made it
interesting.
challenging. Um, and also just a lot of like, oh shit, we lost this person's leaving, it's, things shift around. What sort of like, um, I guess like ethos and saying more audio on Sean, I can absolutely do that. There we go. Sorry about that. That's my fault. We did a test and I said it was fine, and I think I was wrong. But
Oops.
yeah, like what are some like ethos or tips or like philosophies that you kind of instill or try and like discuss and work with sort of the gems that you kind of enlist for your games that kind of dealing with some of the heartbreak and difficulty and challenges that can come with public play.
Yeah, totally. Great question. I think a couple different topics that come to mind. All of the GMs associated with Wizard Staffing Co. Are folks who I have spoken with personally, and ideally, I've either maybe played at their table or played alongside them at one of our convention style play sessions. I think maybe even before I get into more specific details, it's important to note that Wizard Staffing Co. almost operates like a con organizer, convention organizer, in that we will pick a date, a time, a location, and then sell 5 or 6 different tables worth of TTRPGs, and everybody's playing at the same time for about 4 hours, 4.5 hours, and then everybody goes home and hopefully joins us again for the next round. And they're all one shots, so there's not currently any continuation of story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Whichever table you sign up for is the table that you sit at, and maybe that GM from time to time will run like a 2 or 3 shot, but for the most part, it is ephemeral, right? You come to the event, you play through the module, the content that we have played or planned, excuse me, and then join us the next time for something fresh and new, and perhaps even completely different systems.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, go ahead. Well, the getting back to the question of kind of how are GMs prepped for these kinds of events is, I'll chat with everybody one on one, get a sense for if they have played in public before. Are they comfortable playing in a more public setting? Are they comfortable playing with total strangers? And if they haven't had that experience before, playing with strangers or maybe running a table at a convention, we'll usually set up time for them to just join one of our other GMs play through, fifth edition or an indie RPG, um, to get the sense, to get the feel of kind of playing in public with people who you've never worked with or talked with before. um, and then have them join in on other sessions or take some of our like GM workshopping events that we'll do every once in a while too, just to make sure that they are super comfortable because that will of course help the energy at the table and help them feel confident in running the material that they have planned. Um, Everybody is encouraged to bring their own material, and whether that is something they have written for a mainstream TTRPG or an indie TTRPG or something that they've purchased for any kind of TTRPG, it is totally up to them. We're not prescribing what people are running. I want them to be comfortable and confident in the content that they have for the table. And so it's totally up to them. We require that all GMs use safety tools. So things like the X card or lines and veils. We happen to meet someone who produces the deck of player safety. It's like I think it's like 48 cards. It's very close to
Yeah,
52.
seen that one. It's neat.
Yeah, and there's actually a free online version for virtual gaming, though we do in person exclusively as of right now. And so I think the three prongs there are make sure the GM is comfortable and has ideally had some experience running or playing games with complete strangers at least a couple times, making sure that they're using safety tools, and then kind of the final um, important note is after every session, we'll do a little bit of a check-in. I'll send out a link, anonymous feedback. What went well? What didn't go well? Are there any folks who showed up at your table who we should be aware of? Either causing trouble or making other people uncomfortable. And then, did you have to use safety tools? Meaning, was the X card activated? Did anybody cross a line or go too far with a veil? So that we can just keep track of that and make sure that we are building a community that is both welcoming and inviting and focusing on the content that people want to play, and not necessarily ostracizing folks or creating an environment that's less than fun and exciting, as TTRPGs should be. I'll
Yeah.
stop there.
No, that's that's
I'll go
that's
on
a
for
that's
like
a great
30
answer.
minutes.
Um, one thing I'm curious about with safety is like I've heard so many different philosophies about and around safety, um, and I definitely know some people who, in response to the question of were safety tools used, would say yes, like no matter what, right? Because
Mhm.
even if they're not deployed, they are at the table unless they're used. I don't know, just kind of
Yeah,
something that
yeah, great.
um I
Yeah, and I
live
could
and
be
breathe this shit. So
yeah, I could be more specific. I think the exact question is, did you or a player have to use the X card during
okay,
play,
that makes sense. Yeah,
or was a line cross? Not, yeah. I think I probably said it more generically
no, it's okay.
when I was talking earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, no.
We expect everybody is using them.
Mhm.
We only want to know when they were, we'll say, utilized in play,
Yeah, those
meaningfully.
safety tools are interesting because there's so many of them that are uh that are so built into play, right? Like, are you sure
Yes.
you want to do that? Is a safety tool. Uh, 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 like, does anyone does anyone want to describe their character as a safety tool in some ways? Um,
Yeah.
like there are all these little things that are used to like make sure that folks feel comfortable and included at the table, and I think that's really interesting, especially because like I think including like some of the more well-known ones is great because public play is like very precarious. Um,
Yes.
what are some of the challenges that y'all have found in kind of trying to facilitate public play?
A big challenge is uh, people are unfamiliar with the term TTRPG, right?
Oh,
So I joined. I had the opportunity to just join a table as a player yesterday for the first time in a very long time, and we were playing an indie RPG. Well, I would certainly consider it an indie RPG. Troika, though Melsonia is definitely a. I mean, they're not they're certainly not as big as other publishers, but still pretty scrappy, cool folks. Um, and I got a note from some of the players who would be joining earlier on in the week, um, that said, "Hey, can I be seated at the D&D table with my two friends,
Hmm.
X and Y?" And all three of them had purchased tickets for Troika. So I was like, okay, wait, did you accidentally mean to buy tickets for D&D? Because we're not even running D&D at this event. This is like an OSR night. We're just
Right.
doing modern OSR titles, Troika, Shadow Dark, and Morkborg.
Hell yeah.
Um, and yeah, so lots of fun. But I just responded with, okay, you're all at the same table, right? Like these are folks who I have seen at our events before. And it's just interesting that the term D&D just gets used for any TTRPG. And so biggest challenge is sometimes I will publish an event and we're just running Possum Creek and we've got Wanderhome and we've got Yazebas. Um would be curious to see how everybody pronounces that. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure
I say it
Yazebas,
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 but
Yazebas,
some
yeah.
people say it Yazebas because it's Zeeb. Uh,
Zeb, yeah.
like that's a thing that people call it. So
Like GIF versus GIF, yada yada. But and people will show up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm really excited. I've never played D&D before. I signed up for Yazebas." I'm like, "Well,
oh boy.
you're about to have a lot of fun.
Hmm.
It's going to be maybe different from what you have seen in like maybe podcasts that you listen to or streams that you watch. But it's a tabletop role playing game, and here's the deal, and walk them through exactly what to expect. And then I've never had anybody say, "Oh no, I'm just here to go dungeon crawling and kill some spooky monsters." In fact, one of the people who had signed up for Yazeba, now I think I'm changing how I say it,
It's
was
okay.
like, "Oh wow, this is great. I didn't know that D&D could be people in a bed and breakfast." And I said, "Yes, yes, it can be. So please come to a lot of our events, and you will learn all about things that are not just fifth edition."
I think Jay would be very happy to hear about that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That would make Jay really happy. I
it was a
should
good time.
I should clip someone clip like the last minute or so and I'll send it to Jay. um but yeah, that's really cool. I think there's like both. Clearly there's some confusion there, but I think there's also a lot of value in that. At least from like coming from my perspective uh, as someone who's trying to evangelize for indie RPGs in a lot of the work that I do. A lot of my art, a lot of my like posting, I guess, and the stuff that I run, the sort of work that I make, like I think that having a scenario where people can like encounter this thing and maybe not fully understand what they played, but like have that standard in mind is really neat. Um,
Yeah, one event type that we've played with or thought about is well, twofold. I think we're all pretty big fans of Grant Howitt's one-page RPGs. We
hmm,
pretty consistently, well, maybe not pretty consistently, but we have run a handful of those in the past, and then also just amongst the different wizards who are part of Wizard Staff and Co. We'll run kind of pickup games for each other, either virtually or in person at some of the events too. And the thought of selling tickets for like RPG roulette, and you show up and it's just six different one-page RPGs or like super easy to learn RPGs that are no more than maybe 5-10 pages, or maybe just a one-word RPG.
yeah,
Which I saw a couple game jams on not too long ago. And then show up, either pick which one you want, or you just get sat at a table and you know of course some level of autonomy, so that if somebody's super uninterested in the content, or it's going to cross a line or something like that, they could shift to another table. But just get people trying stuff, an hour and a half, 2 hours of a one-page RPG, so that you get something that's not necessarily exactly what you've sought out yourself.
yeah. it's interesting to think about like what are the like conceptual and structural limits of public play? Like because a one-page RPG is a really interesting, I think, pick for that, right? Um, and then I wonder like could you find like a one-page duet game and do like a speed play sort of thing? Like
Yeah.
there's so much potential there. Because indie games take so many different shapes. A public game of 10 candles.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, which we have
yeah.
run.
Hell yeah, that rules. That's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think like I'd love to hear like what are some of your favorite games that y'all have run with Wizard Staff and Co. Because it seems like you've kind of got some really good variety in there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I do too. I would
Yeah.
love for us to run even more, but again, it's kind of getting over the hurdle and educating the really the general public because we use very mainstream channels like the Instagram accounts from the venues that we work with and meta ads just to get the word out and get people joining our tables. But some of my sorry, what was the question again? Is it my favorite TTRPGs that we've
Uh,
run?
yeah. Some of your favorites that you've run.
Some of the favorites that I personally have run, WHPA 13, Weird Heroes of Public Access, which is a
Oh.
TTRPG that just finished its Kickstarter maybe a couple days ago. Um, where you play as like the Bob Rosses, Julia Childs, Wylana, if anybody knows Wylana, well, of the world, all these public access stars who need to maybe save the public access station in Fairhaven, which is supposed to be, like a small town, small city, somewhere on the East Coast because it begins with a W. Um,
Mhm.
is one of my favorites to run, and I think that is also one of the TTRPGs that we once we published it, it sold out in like maybe a week or a couple days, which is like basically unheard of. Same with 10 Candles. I was kind of surprised. I was like, okay, we're gonna have to run a bunch of like ads and stories about to educate people on what 10 Candles is, but after like a day or so, all 6 tickets because we'll do usually 6 max at a table. All 6 tickets sold out. I was shocked,
Wow.
which is great. They're it's clear that there are members of the community who are fully aware of what all is out there and or are willing to try either through you know we ideally we are stewarding good experiences, stewarding good play sessions, and that makes people feel less concerned about you know pressure around buying the right ticket or playing the right RPG, and hopefully people just start playing everything. I also had the
Yeah.
chance to play definitely Wizards.
Oh.
Unsurprisingly,
I love
I
wizard
think
games.
Wizard. I think yeah, I feel like Wizard games maybe brought a handful of us to TTRPGs, but
Oh
definitely
yeah.
Wizards. The it's not really the conceit, but you are basically not wizards, but you have magical powers, and you have to go through a licensing exam to become an actual wizard. You're either like 2d6 familiars in a trench coat, or you might be some sort of like elementalist who can control the wind or fire or something like that. And it's just a very fun, very easy to pick up, very easy to run system as well.
Hell yeah. Yeah, this looks fun. I love wizard games. Have you heard of Polychromatics? You are a wizard.
No, but let
So
me
that
look it up.
is. Hang on, I'll send this to you because it's a fantastic game. Actually, we played it on the You Are Beheld stream the 24-hour stream that we did. We played this. I'll put it in the chat and I'll send it to you. This is by a friend of mine. Full disclosure, this is actually technically by a metamor of mine. Uh, but yeah, it's this like beautiful MS Paint
Yeah.
tabletop game, or sorry, not tabletop game. Table bottom paint game is the way it describes itself, um, and it's
Oh
very
wow.
very fun.
Yeah, I'm
Deeply
very into
earnest
this.
book. The one
Um,
challenge I think for public play would be printing it because it's very colorful and there's not a print version. So,
yeah, that's fair. Well, as someone who tries to live as much in the physical realm at the table, I am not afraid of trying to convert things in various ways to get it printed out in my workhorse of a black and white printer. But as somebody who also somehow graduated with a degree in graphic design, I love anything like this, right? It's like, hey, listen, I can flip through a bunch of mainstream TTRPG books and nothing wrong with, following some overarching recommendations or brand guidelines or um, patterns in how we show content, especially as it pertains to accessibility and especially as it pertains to learnability and readability. But my God, do I love anything produced in like Microsoft Paint, which I don't think exists anymore. So I'm not really sure.
uh,
Maybe you could do this in Procreate too, or like GIMP, but it's phenomenal. Love the colors.
I'm about to. You're gonna. What's the Kojima quote about about Quiet's skin? Uh,
Oh my gosh.
uh, feel shame for your words and deeds. Um, here's Emma's paint. I mean, it's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
I'm glad
Sorry.
it still exists.
It's
For some
very
reason, I was
silly.
thinking that somebody had that it was being sunsetted. Not somebody, but that there's no longer support for it, or I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels
It's a
like the
bit.
first thing that would be on the chopping block. That and pinball, which I think is function. No, I can't open pinball. That's actually really sad. Fucking hell.
That in a very similar way, this is uh, quasi related topic. The utilizing Microsoft Paint, utilizing the tools that you have to build the TTRPGs that you want, I think is extremely important, and it's
Hmm.
extremely important for creators to um, show how you can use a tool like Google Slides to produce a zine. Um, I,
Fuck
I
yeah.
work with I work with a another wizard from Wizard Staff and Co. On a zine. It's called the Salam series, SILAM. That is takes place in his fictional world and so on and so forth. But we will commonly at conventions run just like a 30-60 minute workshop on creating your first zine, right? Which
Mhm.
is like 50% hype up of like, just produce it. Like, trust me, people will read it. Like, people are out there, they will pay what they want, or they will pay $1 to read your zine about TTRPG topics, or your collection of stories or collection of illustrations or whatever the situation might be. And I am a huge proponent of using Google Slides and just taking the template that I had set up to create a zine and just like slap some content in there, print it out, staple it, see if you like it. If you enjoy doing that, then do it 100 more times, right? Because more than anything, the TTRPGs interestingly straddle both the physical and digital spaces really well. You can have a digital zine just as easily as you can have a physical zine and get it out there, get it published. And I hate it when the barrier is tools and understanding tools. Especially with regard to things like InDesign and Affinity, right? It's like, do I have to learn this tool in order to be published? No.
Yeah.
Um,
I know a lot of folks
at
who
some
do in
point,
Canva. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's lovely. What was I gonna ask? Oh yeah. So like the Dovecote in a lot of ways winds up being kind of a designer's show in a lot of ways. I said that twice. Anyways, um, the Dovecote winds up being a designer's show. Just kind of by virtue of the things that we talk about in the audience that I've accumulated. Um, so like, is are there any channels through which like designers can reach out to you, if they have like things that they maybe think like would fit well for public play, or are you more kind of like seeking these things out? And if you are seeking these things out, what sort of stuff are you looking for? I guess would be the other question.
Yeah, great question. The so the things that like Wizard Staffing Co. might run. at an event, I think is probably kind of the question here.
Hmm.
I in my head, whenever somebody says designer, I think, okay, are they talking about game design? Or are they talking about graphic design? Just because I come from the world of graphic design, so I'm like, okay, wait a sec. If you need graphic design help, you can certainly reach out to me too. But if you've got something and you think, hey, this isn't a good place, and I would like to maybe get some play testing done, right? It's in like the latter stages of development, and you are interested in having a wizard who is also interested in running it, run it for some people in person. You can certainly reach out, and I'd be happy to chat with you about it. Um, I can put my email in like the chat probably, but it's just hello@wizardstaffing.co.
It's a
I
good
almost
ass
forgot what it
email
was there for a second.
address.
Thank you, thank you. Um, the you can certainly send us over any materials, or if you want to chat for a little bit, I'm happy to jump on, like a Discord or Google Meet or something, and chat through the content that you have. Um, we'll almost always charge for games. Tickets are $10 a pop, and we always offer somewhere in the range of like 15 to 20% of our tickets are what we refer to as community tickets. So if you just email me and say, I would love to play this, I will give you a ticket. Um, because we understand that it's not necessarily, folks might not have the cash to both attend and get to the venue, or attend and get to the venue and also have something good to eat. So we're happy to open our doors to anybody. Just drop me a note. But with that being said, since we're charging, I like to make sure that the content, the system is in a place where we're not just doing kind of early or like alpha beta play testing, but it's pretty close to a finished project, and or excuse me, product. And maybe you're looking to just get some final feedback on content or layout or learnability of the system and so on and so forth. Gosh, really need to work on shorter answers, but
It's okay.
you can certainly reach out. We did it was less about playtesting and less about getting feedback, and more about just getting the word out. We did an early access play event for Gehenna Gaming that produces Eldritch Automata.
Oh yeah.
um, and we had a lot of folks come out to that. A lot of folks had a really good time. We ended up getting some good feedback just on the current state of the like playtest document that we had shared, and just some other notes about understandability, if that's a word, probably not, of certain terms and when those mechanics were applicable in play, that
Hell yeah.
we handed off to them. So if you feel like you are in a place where you have a product that is 85-90% there maybe, and you'd love to have somebody run it and maybe give you some feedback and chat with players about it, I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Sick. So something I'm thinking about. This is a very for reference. I went to journalism for a school for 4 years, and so I'm very used to like uh interviews that are way more antagonistic than this, and so I've developed a hater ass bitch orientation
Where is this
towards coming
going?
up with questions. This is not a very cruel question. It's just this is definitely a bit more I guess like uh, uh something that I'm curious about that
Yeah.
I'm hoping doesn't come off as antagonistic, which is like so in terms of like safety, right? One of the
Mhm.
tools that I see very often is the open door tool. Like you can leave at any time. You don't need to say why. You can come back as you wish, but obviously like that is probably complicated by having sort of paid tickets. And I'm just kind of curious, like how if at all do y'all think about like these sort of very fraught and personal and kind of bleedy nature of RPGs with the
Mhm.
sort of injection of folks, money in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question, and I will transparently say that once a customer had reached out and felt like they did not get the experience that they were expecting, I got some really good feedback from them. I had shared a little bit more about like what Wizard Staffing does and like what is to be expected at the events that we put on, and then even without them asking, just refund it, because I don't want people to feel like they have lost out on 4 hours of their life, also ten of their dollars. And I want them to come back, and I want them to maybe pick a different system, or try a different GM, because there's definitely a couple different layers to it, right? We run a lot of different systems. Not every system is for everybody. I've played my fair share of systems that I would not play again. I've been at tables with people who I would never play with again. I have a conversation with all of our GMs, as I had mentioned, and in it we explore topics like, hey, how do you check in with the table? How do you, at the forefront of the session, understand what people are looking for, or what people are there to experience? Um, and I think that helps to curtail anybody getting up, leaving the table, and wanting their money back, because it offers, in some way, it kind of like pulls back the curtain to the magic that happens at the table, sometimes naturally or organically, when you're with people you trust or your friends. Um, but I think it's important because a majority of the time you're with total strangers at this table. So it's important to know what people are looking for, and to figure out those lines and veils, and try and cater to each and every one of those um, desires as best we can. But at the end of the day, players are not going to get everything that they want. And so I think that um, yeah, I don't know.
No, I think
I
that's a
agree
great
with every,
answer.
yeah,
I think like I really respect the because I think like when I think about like corporate events culture, there's a tendency to like assume that if you show any amount of charity, it'll be abused. Um, I also know this because I did because I did college events for a while, and uh, there was a lot of stuff that was pretty scummy that people did. Um,
yeah.
but I respect I respect coming from the angle of like, if somebody is earnestly having a bad time, they're probably earnestly having a bad time. And it sounds like y'all are doing the right thing in terms of like making sure that your GMs are ready for situations, are using safety tools, and if worse comes to worse, being open to open to doing whatever it takes to get those folks back at the table. I think that's really a really great answer and a really great philosophy.
Thank you. Yeah, and I will say, per the statement that you had just made, or that you were kind of alluding to, it's interesting how many people ask me if people abuse our community tickets, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are ostensibly free, complimentary to anybody who reaches out. And I would say no. Nobody has ever abused them. And the reason why I say that is because they often don't get used. I publish it as a part of each and every one of our event descriptions. Um, and great, I mean, this is actually, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I'm like, oh, maybe I should actually post about it more too, just in our Instagram, so that it's like very clear that this is an option. But people have, I would say, one in every 5 events that we run. So like maybe once a month, somebody will reach out and say that they want to use one. And I would in no way, shape, or form think that people are, one, abusing it, and two, um, I don't want people to abuse it, but
Mm-hmm.
also like, hey, if you're in Chicago and you're listening and you want to join an event, like try it out. I think we're also clear that like 86% of all of our profits go directly to the GMs. So our pay structure is very much to support GMs, because they are the lifeblood of the community. I mean, the players are also the lifeblood of the community, but like the GMs are who we're bringing people to the table and bringing them back. We have a pretty good return rate of like 33 to 40%,
Sick.
for some of our events, which is cool. It's all kind of like based on neighborhood, and like how often we run those events. But it's yeah, I would say treat your community well. Easier said than done sometimes, maybe, but like if a lot of people were reaching out and saying, I want a refund, then I would seriously reconsider how we are doing everything that we're doing, because it's a signal that something is not right, that we are advertising things incorrectly, or that GMs are not clear with expectations or clear with what the folks are going to experience at the table.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I think with that we'll head into the news if you're down for that. Maybe go through
Yeah,
those
totally.
and then take a little break before mail. Um,
Yeah,
Actually, before we do the news, you had something that you wanted to talk about a little bit,
yeah.
as much as you
My
can.
news. Yeah,
Some Chicago stuff.
yeah, totally. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many folks are in the city of Chicago, but like raise your hand or like drop an emoji or something. Um, in and also message me. Use a community ticket.
Yeah,
Join one
get
of
in
our
there.
events. Um, we're gonna be running Moongrave soon, and I don't know, some cool other RPG. So, but city of Chicago, there's a handful of folks who come from different organizations, kind of like Wizard Staffing Co. Who are working together and have formed or are in the process of forming a non-for-profit called the Chicago Tabletop Games Association, CTGA. And the purpose of the non-for-profit is manyfold, and some is being developed currently. But it's all about connecting folks in the city to games, and bringing games to underserved communities, and making sure that there's space at the table for everybody to try things, and to participate in the hobby that we all love. I'll be associated with CTGA, and helping them to form and develop. Um, the I think the first focus is kind of how do we support GMs? How do we make sure that folks are paid appropriately for their time, and that the tools that GMs have access to kind of further their, I don't want to say careers, but for some people it is careers.
Hmm.
But I don't want to say careers because then it makes me sound like a corporate goon, which I am sometimes. But to further their mastery, we'll say, of
Right.
TTRPG skills, but then also, it, in short order, bringing that to the community as well, right? And getting people GMing more, getting people learning more about TTRPGs, supporting TTRPG creators, so on and so forth. So, um, especially if you're in the city of Chicago, look us up. I'll probably be reposting some stuff. So if by chance you follow us on Instagram, Wizard Staffing at Instagram, no, at Wizard Staffing on Instagram, you should see some CTGA stuff get reposted to our story.
Hell yeah! I just realized that I forgot to do the birds. The birds are supposed to do things. Okay, so let's just pretend this was the beginning of the interview. Intro flying in.
Oh yeah,
Intro the interview
my name's Sean
bird.
Rawley. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cordis the news bird coming in from uh, like Elysium, like the Greek Elysium.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, that's all we have for now. I totally forgot to do birds. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm I'm being made an example of in the town square after this.
Every, community. You have to reach out. You have to remind of the birds
Yeah,
next episode, next go around.
it's okay. This is a bit of a low key episode. Birds have returned from Avalon. Let's run it back or whatever the fuck. Yeah, exactly. Um, so this is a little bit of shitting where I eat, I guess, which kind of happened last week too, because we talked about Sapphic World, with Lilith. But I want to talk about the awards, which happened uh last week, last Friday. Some really cool girl hosted them, and I don't know who she is. I don't know if anyone recognizes this this bitch, but yeah, I hosted the awards on Friday. You can check the VOD on my YouTube. I wanted to talk a bit because I didn't comment on any of the winners because then when I was there, I was in my capacity as just holding the space for Nico and the judges uh, to do this to run the awards. So I want to talk a bit about the really fantastic games that won this year. Um, Feel free if you have any thoughts about them, Sean, to butt in because there are a lot of games here that I have not played that I don't know about. In fact, I would say the majority of these I actually have not played. um,
It's probably same.
yeah.
There's just so many.
Cloud Empress seemed really cool. The judge Aaron described it as sort of Nausicaa-esque, but it is a mothership hack, which is really neat. Um,
Yeah. I've
uh,
walked past this in dealers' halls many a times and thought I should buy this. It's so beautiful.
yeah,
But I have not. But I've heard nothing but good things from people who have played.
looks really good. Border Riding, which is a historical game, which seems really neat. Um,
I actually do own that. I fortunately or unfortunately, a decent chunk of my like TTRPG shelf is just things that I find beautiful, which I'm sure
yeah,
there are
real.
others out there too. And I bought this at GameholeCon like I don't know a month ago, and keep saying, "Oh, I should play this. Try and play this with folks in and around the holidays." But have I don't even know where it is right now. But it is beautiful.
Sorry, this is not the historical one. This is more just yeah, it's a map game. This is the historical one, the La Hispana, which is about the Spanish Civil War, which I might actually look into because I have a lot of I minored in Spanish and have a lot of broad thoughts about about the sort of the Spanish fascist uprising. So I'd love to give that a look. Eco Mofos I've heard of seems really neat. The whole aesthetic is really good. Um, really I love some colors like this. This has some real it's some post-apocalypse shit. I love to see it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's also, yeah, Mark of the Odd. So Into the Odd, which is a super fun system by Chris McDowell of Mythic slash Electric Bastion Land fame, I think.
oh
Super fun
yeah,
system. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
sick. Haas, which is a mothership module, which seems really interesting. Kind of dealing in like it seems like there's some like demagoguery type stuff happening, which I guess is pretty relevant in the present for reasons. Um, Another Waters Tidebreak, another mothership. A lot of mothership is something that I noted,
Yeah.
which is neat because I think this was really the year of mothership in a lot of ways. If you're paying attention to indie stuff, uh, I think there's been a lot of mothership that has been really good this year, especially
Agreed.
because 2E released. I get really nervous playing mothership, so I don't play a lot of it. I have played some with Jess, but um, that very cool game, very cool modules. It seems like um, this is probably the one that's most in my vibe. I really like underwater exploration. Um, the Levante papers seemed interesting. I'm trying to remember. I think I was very focused on making sure that the video played properly, so I didn't really catch much of this. Um,
That's fun.
yeah, a lot of magic
Into
spells
this
shit.
into this style. Who doesn't like magic?
Yeah. Thousand Year Old Campfire, or Old Morris Cave, has a really incredible like science book aesthetic, which is or like a scientific journal aesthetic,
Yeah.
which I have a lot of respect for, and also I think it's cool to see people using Thousand Year Old Vampire as a as kind of a structure for games. Um, I love to see oh god, I love to see Ananthropy continuing to make stuff. I'm glad that Anna's still making things. I need to give these a look because I really have enjoyed a lot of Anna's previous work that I've enjoyed has been like partially because or sort of astride the fact that it is kind of perverse, and I'm intrigued to see like what side of things this hangs on. Um, it's very like 1990s shareware and 2000s MMO vibes, and it's three games, which is neat.
It's giving me. I am just skimming the words, and they're not really sticking to my brain. But what's that? TV show on like maybe Cartoon Network, Toonami,
Oh,
reboot.
yeah, reboot. Definitely that sort of vibe. Yeah, looks really neat. I'm definitely gonna be checking this one out. Lyrical Ludology with Logan, who has been a guest on the show. Um, Incredible podcast, really really good. I mean, biased perhaps because almost certainly biased because Logan is like a friend, and I'm pretty sure also met him more through Sasha, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, Logan's really great, and the show, like, I listened to the J Dragon episodes; those were fantastic. I've been meaning to listen through more. I think I listened to some of Snow's stuff on here. Um, yeah, if you like lyric games, this is a really good podcast to like listen to. Or if you don't, and if you want to understand what lyric games are and how they work, it's a really good show. Highly recommend. Starring the Hornet's Nest, which is a temple crawl, has a really neat kind of like Hindu aesthetic to it. At least that's my understanding of sort of the.
Mung Tao. Yeah,
Oh, sorry, yeah, more
cool.
Southeast Asian. Yeah, not Hindu. Um, Very cool.
Long time follower of Mung Kao on Instagram, just because of the beautiful artwork that they pull up,
Oh yeah.
create. And I think that oh my gosh, I'm so bad at names. Somebody who's extremely popular, the Gladysant, I think this is Substack, just covered. Um, Something produced by Thousand Islands. I'm just gonna
Oh
stop
hell
talking
yeah.
because I'm so bad at proper nouns.
No, it's okay.
But Mun Kao had worked on a pretty large book, Reach of the Roach God, I want to say.
Hmm.
So if folks are curious or interested, Mun Kao's work is featured there as well.
Yeah. Sean 4 really sold me on Glyph, which is a single player adventure in runic magic where you make spells using shapes dictated by the book.
Super fun.
Really curious about this one. Gonna have to give it a look. Um,
Actually, accidentally get sucked into a parallel dimension through your exquisite glyphs.
Listen, I might be casting spells. I might be swapping my consciousness with like various animals to try and see new colors so that I can write those down in my journal and then
There you go.
use those for reagents for my potions, and that's okay.
That's
Um,
perfect.
Wreck this deck. Definitely interesting. I do love a TTRPG that encourages destruction. I think that's really funny. Um, I think it's good. And then Almanac of the Sanguine Paths, I was very sold on. Like, the idea of doing these very, like, it's an epistolary TTRPG, which is always fun. I love letters. I love sending letters. I love thinking about letters. Corico, which I think most people have probably heard of Corico at this point. It's a great uh it's basically what if Kiki's Delivery Service was a solo journaling game, which is neat. And it has extremely fucking beautiful art. Really lovely. Liaison, I was also sold on, which is a a gay game, but um there is a man who's going to kill one of these women. Um, it seems really fucked in a way that seems very compelling, and I'm intrigued to give that one a look as well. Budding.
Bluebeard.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I should probably just shut up, but
That's okay.
saying Bluebeard. Oh my gosh, Bluebeard's Bride in Downton Abbey.
Yeah, definitely in that zone. How many more? Okay, we can go through the rest of these. I'm realizing that I'm kind of dragging it, but Budding, which is a good society hack that is inspired by shoujo manga, sick as hell. Love to see it. Bound. I think that I was focused on something else when Bound was being talked about, but it seems neat. It's about two people traveling through a world that is at risk of being destroyed. And it looks like there's one player, two player versions, which is cool. Um, Last Train to Bremen by Karo Sersian, which people really love. It's about doomed musicians trying to escape a deal with the devil. Um, I've heard wonderful things about this one. I'm excited to play it at some point. And yes, Vampire, which seemed interesting. Wild layout and art on this one with the like really simplistic like stock photo stuff. Yeah, vampires attacking a an improv theater troupe. I think it's a pretty funny bit. Um,
Vampires are eternal, you know. Every single TTRPG needs a little bit of a little vampire blood in it.
yeah, and I think broadly I was like pretty happy, like as an external person, because I had no involvement with the decisions that were made for the awards. I was just kind of hosting their decisions. I was pretty happy with the choices that they made. A lot of games that I had not heard of at all, which was like fantastic because it means that I get to check out some new
Yeah.
games. Um, Maybe not as good for me as like a person who's supposed to have my thumb on the pulse, but you know, what can I do? There are so
What are you
many
gonna
little subcultures, and people will just like one, there are so many different subcultures making games, and two, someone can just get an idea for a game out of the ether and then make it, and it's like there's no cultural uh you know there's no way that I could like predict that culturally because it'll just come out of nowhere. I could wake up tomorrow and it would be like, oh yeah, Wayne Radio TV has made an RPG. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. No, might as well at this point. Um, but yeah, that's that. Um, Speaking of which, we were not looking at Twitter, which is where I usually like. Often there's news in the TTRPG scene, and I talk about it on Twitter. We were looking at Blue Sky instead, and that's our next story. I don't know if you've like, I don't know if like the circles that you run in, because it seems like you're more like locally bound on Instagram, kind of do deal with this, but like Twitter, because of some AI policies where it's like all of your text gets fed into Grok, right? Um,
Yeah.
a lot of the like Twitter TTRPG community, and I think a lot of like left wing people in general, I would say like indie TTRPG community because like that's generally very left leaning. Um, a lot of those folks have moved over to Blue Sky, myself included. I've seen a lot of people like blocking, deleting their accounts on Twitter. Um, and yeah, I don't know if you've seen any of that, just kind of in your own observation, or if that's even like relevant to what you do.
Yeah, we don't use have never used Twitter really. I think there's like probably three posts, and I probably just have like a lot of likes and bookmarks. But increasingly on Instagram, people will post that they are moving to Blue Sky, and either they have a dwindling Twitter following and have posted it there, but then also cross posting on IG so that they can show people where they're going to be writing more prose. Um, I'd be curious to know. I mean, I do not use Threads either. I literally just set up a Blue Sky account like 2 or 3 days ago. So, like you said, a lot of our community is just through like Instagram, through Eventbrite, which is what we use for ticketing, and some email blasting. We've got a Substack, but have generally not utilized things like Twitter and Blue Sky, but have seen somewhat of a mass exodus over the past couple days or week or so here.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something about Instagram, and I mean it in a nice way. It's coworker social media, um,
Yeah.
which I think is really good for you, and I think it makes it a good option for a like public, public GM'd games, like pro GM'd games community, because like, you know, you can say like, oh yeah, follow this guy on Instagram to like your coworker or the your friend, or
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it is uh a very local social media where like I think something like Blue Sky or Twitter or uh you know I think Facebook is also very local, but like yeah, Tumblr, like those things are kind of in the ether. They have their own culture and their own things, and not everyone is on them. So
100%.
I definitely see the value in being on Insta. Uh,
Yes, yeah.
Threads,
No,
however, I don't
agreeing.
understand.
Yeah. Me neither. I love it when I'm in Instagram trying to post something and then I'm pulled over into Threads and then honestly
Oh,
cannot get out.
scary.
Yes, Instagram is young people Facebook. Agree wholeheartedly, and I love the interpretation of yeah, social media for coworkers because there are very limited real conversations. There are very limited conversations happening on Instagram. It is very much just reactionary to I don't know
Like what's
who's
being
actually
presented.
100%.
Yeah,
No real dialogue.
yeah, that is
It's great
interesting.
for posting ads,
Yeah, that
posting ads and getting people to come and play TTRPGs. So
seems great for
um,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, Threads. I had someone. Long-time viewers will know that someone, and I will not name who they are. Someone tried to get me to join Threads, or was like saying like, yeah, we do all our shit on Threads, and we've been seeing like massive engagement. I did not. I never touched that shit. I like that's a deal with the devil. I'm sorry. Uh,
yeah.
you can't make me. Um,
Willing to make a lot of deals with the devil, but not moving over to Threads.
no, I'm not making a deal with Zuck. Is the one thing.
Yeah, also that.
I mean, I'll make some deals with Zuck, but not like anything. I won't inconvenience myself to. I won't bend over backwards for Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. I was talking to my partner and creative collaborator Wendy Ribston about Big Bad Con, and how there was kind of the sense that in 2019 Big Bad Con was this place where it was like all of your mutuals, all of your TTRPG designer mutuals from Twitter were all in real life for like 3 days, right? Um, and that vibe was not quite the same in 2024. Like there were a lot of like AP folks who people didn't really know, or who like designers didn't really know. There was a large swath of people who was like, I don't know who this is, and well, not necessarily just I don't know who this is, but like uh these are not the people I expected to be here. For a lot of like people who were there in 2019, that was the vibe. Um, and I think it's like I think a lot of that has to do with like the way that Twitter shifted into this like really weird right wing promotional algorithm based space. Um, and I'm really hoping that like indie teacher RPGs having a space to market to people who like RPGs, gamers, like people who are kind of on the fringe, you might be drawn in by like a certain aesthetic or something. I think having a place like that is not led by an algorithm may be very helpful in like bringing back that vibe uh of like the people who are uh the the people who are like getting well known on these sites are like people who are making really deeply interesting art. And I don't know. I'm hopeful for what Blue Sky can do for just like shifting the vibe back a little bit, because it's been pretty fucking dire for a while in terms of like indie TTRPGs and social media, and like how and where we hold ourselves in
Yeah.
yeah, relative to our audiences and relative to each other.
I agree, and I feel like the outside of social media, um, the something that was brought to my attention recently through Vintage RPG podcast, which I don't know if anybody listens to or folks are familiar with, but
Hmm.
I saw something they had posted somewhere, could not tell you where, about developing or setting up a web ring, which
Right.
predates me for the most part, but I do recall things like web rings. I had no idea what they were called, but basically like we'll just say cross linking. So like if you're a TTRPG creator and your content perhaps is similar to another TTRPG creator, just creating a number of links across all of your, PBTA games, all of your D6 pool games, all of your, exploring XYZ topic, creating a web ring so that folks can kind of like navigate across that is not a algorithm fueled or algorithm based social media means of accessing information. It is just content created by folks, and like presumably
Yeah.
you could do something like this with itch pages or you know Notion. You can create like a single page site if you wanted to. I think that there's this woodpaneled.org, which I think harkens back to, I don't know, actual early TTRPGs maybe and or OSR. I have not looked into it, but just to continue the conversation of like what are
Yeah.
spaces that could be developed outside of social media that allow people to explore certain topics or be connected to other folks. Um, you know, sounds like some folks are bringing back web rings.
Yeah. Z says, I'm more concerned that everyone storming in from Twitter is just going to make it Twitter. You make a good point. Yeah. But yeah, I think web
Oh
rings are
no,
really interesting. I will say, like, Blue Sky has been good. Uh, make a fucking website and slash or a newsletter. Like, holy shit. People need to, like, do what they can to try and liberate themselves from social media because it will
yeah,
like you want to have a good portfolio. I think if you're doing like design, like any sort of design stuff, whether it be game design or graphic or whatever else. And B, like, these things are not going to last forever. But if you have a domain, like, as long as whatever you're using like on the front end doesn't crash, you should be fine. Like, I guess like Squarespace could go down, so if you know how to code your own website, probably do that. But also, this is a good chance to slip in my website. Check out eclipse.gay for all sorts of interesting
awesome.
for rates and some like retrospectives of my work, and I'm pretty proud of what's there. Oh, this image is fucked up. Oh no, I think that image was supposed to be cropped. Okay, anyways, but yeah, uh, folks should get their own website. I feel this very strongly in my bones. I did it recently, and it was so fucking easy to do, and it was really fun. Um, you can truly use whatever application you prefer to do it with, and whatever host you prefer. I listen, that eclipse.gay, that's a vanity. That's a vanity URL. That costs a good amount of money. But you can have a URL that's like $10 a year. Like you can keep them cheap.
Yeah.
Um,
We were talking about this earlier when I was talking about my email address, but wizardstaffing.co, not cheap, but super easy to set up. What did you use to build your website?
I just use Squarespace. It was very easy.
Yeah. Squarespace, okay, as someone who has built now two websites on, oh my gosh, WordPress. WordPress is great if you're listening, but also Squarespace is super, super easy.
They got tools.
They got the tools that you need, and more than anything, they kind of limit your choices. So if you're just trying to get
Mhm.
content out there, I think it's very good. Also, I had mentioned it earlier, but like you can pretty quickly and easily spin up a one-page site, maybe even multi-page through Notion. I don't think that you have to pay for Pro to just get your work up and out there, um, and would strongly recommend that. Also, nobody's going to bulk at like a linked PDF on Google Drive if you use Google Tools. So, any ways to get out there?
Yeah. I'm not sponsored by any of these websites, but listen,
Same.
the only sponsor I'm not taking like Factor whatever. I'm not taking any of that fucking easy cook meal shit, and I'm not taking BetterHelp, but I'll take website sponsors.
Yeah.
Which I guess kind of makes me a bit of a like. I feel like that's the thing to immediately say to not get any sponsors is be like, yeah, no, I'll take any sponsor except for these ones because I feel like the ones that remain are going to be like, oh god, we got to be like ideologically pure or else this woman is not going to take us. Um,
Yeah.
but also like I don't think that there have been like medical malpractice lawsuits for fucking Squarespace, but BetterHelp, well, you know. Uh
Yeah. Who knows what's going on there?
yeah. Yo, I learned something really cool about BetterHelp. If you're a trans man, they help you practice to be a male. Look up uh look up BetterHelp male practice for more information. Uh, anyways, um, dumb bit. Uh, but yeah, I think we can probably get through the rest of the news because I have like one tiny teensy little thing, and then we'll hop over to we'll take a little break, and then we'll hop over to the mail. Um, also, folks should send emails to darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com. Also, hi, previous winter, welcome. Or sorry, darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com. I almost typed in darlingdemoneclipse.com, which is not a website that I
Not
own.
yet.
I should, if I have enough money, I should get that as a secondary domain for
But through
eclipse.co.
Squarespace, you could.
I could do that, yeah. Fucking hell.
I love my partnership with Squarespace.
My, enter code. No, I shouldn't say that. There's not a code. But I wanted to talk a bit about. Speaking of ads, I want to talk a bit about the. About how deep do I want to go into this? I kind of want to talk about the bullshit, but I also kind of think it's like not a good idea for the safety of my channel. But also, I don't know if I have anyone in my chat who's gonna like. I don't think that I have like fucking Destiny clip chimps, so to speak, in my chat. So I'm going to speak openly, and if I'm wrong, then I suppose I'll see you all after I get swatted. uh, so I want to talk about the adpocalypse. There's this dude on this website named Destiny. I can't think of what his actual last name is. I've heard him referred to mostly as Divorcelli because he's been divorced a bunch of times and his last name sounds vaguely like that. But this guy is a fucking like complete pervert. And he has spent the last while trying to get Hassan Piker banned off of Twitch. Now, how does that relate to this show? Well, the reason is Destiny and his kind of orbiters, his circle of trusted necromancers, have decided to spam Twitch advertisers with a bunch of like messages about how Hassan is doing anti-Semitism and blah 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 because he's anti-Zionist and because you know because we live in the society that we live in. And what this has led to is Twitch having a policy where if you say that someone is a Zionist in a derogatory manner, it is sort of up to their judgment to determine if you are violating the terms of service. So, this will obviously affect this show because I have certainly called people Zionists on this show before, to reflect their actual viewpoints that they have stated. However, I am worried about the potential for that to be used against me. That worry does not supersede my desire to call people what they are, to call an apple and an orange and orange, so I'm not going to be changing anything about what I say on the Dovecote. It doesn't come up that often anyways, but I guess I thought it would be relevant to say that. Because I see no reason to be fucking intimidated about this stuff, especially when there is an ongoing genocide. So yeah, that's pretty much my spiel on that. You're welcome to add anything if you want to, Sean, but otherwise we can move on.
I don't think I have anything.
Alrighty. Yeah, let's take a quick break, and when we're back, we will read the mail. Please send questions to darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com, and we'll see you then. We'll be back at, how's 5 minutes? Cool. Alright, so we'll see you in
Oh,
5.
sorry. I didn't realize that was a question.
No
Yeah.
worries, yeah.
I think it said, let's take 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Sounds good.
So we'll be back at
See you in
21.
5.
See you in 5. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dovecote. We are unfortunately devoid of mail. I will still bring in Apocrypha the Mailbird. I should have like a thing where if there's no mail, Apocrypha comes out like emaciated and sad. Um, but
Wingless.
we kind of talked a bit off air about like some things that we could talk about if there are no questions. But please do send questions to my Gmail. Questions in the chat, and we will answer them about paid GMing, about games in public, about running a sort of structure like what Sean facilitates, and any questions about RPGs as a whole. We'd love to answer your questions. Um, but yeah, we were going to talk a bit about like how does this sort of thing get kind of formulated? Like how do you make how do you make a wizard staffing co? How do you get paid to GM? How do as an individual, as an organization? Um, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The and after this, we had the Wizard cohort Cabal had created two different digital zines that we had presented at a couple different cons just to teach folks what we did, what worked well, what didn't work well, so that they feel maybe confident in trying to run a table or two, or maybe even more eventually in their own hometowns. But in a nutshell, well, anyway, I'll share those after this conversation. But in a nutshell, a good friend who luckily runs ticketing for an event venue reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we play D&D. Do you want to run D&D for folks who buy tickets at this concert venue? We'll do it on Sundays. Get people in the door. We'll pay your GMs. Blah blah blah." I said, "Yeah, that sounds really cool." And two things came out of it. One, I like activated the Chicagoland area GM tree
Hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
was connected to like a half dozen people who then connected me to another half dozen people, so on and so forth. And we ended up having 7 GMs running 7 tables at that first event, and had roughly somewhere between, I think it was like 55 and 60 people total at the event, which is super cool, and significantly more than I ever thought would actually happen. And I think the fact that we had also sold out in 18 hours, and then released more tickets and then sold out again in like 36 hours or 40 hours, something like that, was a signal that like, hey, people will do this. People are interested in casual convention style play once a month, twice a month, a couple times a month, whatever. And so from there, it just kind of continued to grow organically with me reaching out to different venues, me reaching out to different breweries in the city. So if you
Hmm.
have a brewery in your hometown, um, they almost certainly will have a table or two. They're very large spaces typically, and they will love to have some more foot traffic, on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, when things are maybe a little bit more slow, which is great because then you don't have to you don't have to deal with um, figuring out food or beverages at an event. They can just get whatever they want.
Yeah,
Um,
that's sick.
yeah, I would also say, and I'd be curious to know from like a start playing games standpoint, what turned you off to paid GMing? Because I feel like I have encountered the same thing a couple different times where I'm like, I don't really, we don't, Wizard Staffing as an organization does not make a whole lot of money intentionally, right?
Hmm.
A vast majority of it goes to the GMs, and really I'm just paying for like the ink, well, the toner, the paper for printing pre-gens so that our folks don't have to bring characters, and our game masters can just focus on running the game. And then like ads and some other fees and website, blah blah blah. But I think the $10 threshold, um, or having some sort of payment in order to play while still also offering community tickets if you can. Um, I think it's kind of like a like a an unspoken social contract of, hey, we're all paying to be here. Like, don't be a dick, and
Yeah.
also show up. Right? Far too often we have run. I shouldn't say far too often, but a couple times we have run free events, free tables. 20 people sign up, 6 people show up. Right? There's no investment from the player. And so it's pretty easy to say, I'm hungover, or I am not feeling well, or oh my gosh, I've got something else to do, which is fine. I mean, I'm not going to get bent out of shape about people who have different or better things to do. But at the same time, just having some monetary exchange helps to increase participation, we have seen.
Yeah, I guess to answer that question about like what turned me off from start
Oh,
playing,
from
I think
like two
part of
minutes
it
ago, sorry.
that's okay. I think part of it was like dealing with the bureaucracy of it was really challenging, where it was like I had a lot of situations where like this person has not shown up. They are at the fucking airport. They forgot that the game was happening today, even though I sent a bunch of ads. And
Yeah.
like I want to make sure this person gets their money's worth or, doesn't have to pay. They're not communicating with me. And it's like, oh, that can happen any time. Like that is not
Yeah.
that's not exceptional. And so that's kind of what turned me off from like the virtual pay GMing. But honestly, I think I could do in person, personally. But also like I am gonna have a full time job soon, so that's gonna be a different world. But yeah,
Always the balance.
yeah, but yeah, and I think part of it was also just like there was a sense of, and this is something that I haven't really seen in indie TTRPG design circles, but there was a sense of like competition. Um, and what's really, I'm not going to name any names, but like there are people who I saw doing start playing stuff who were like deeply kind of like competitive and like isolated and like I got mine, fuck you buddy about it, who are now like in the indie TTRPG space and being like, hey guys, like I'm working with all these cool people, and it's like, again, I'm a bit of a hater sometimes, but my point being like, there were people who were like, really really precious with like the aid and the advice and the help that they could give other people. And I'm not talking about like asking for like, oh hey, please give me a thumbnail for my game or whatever. Like it was literally just like stuff like, hey, I went to this like free workshop that you offered. I'm following up on like some of the advice that you gave me. What do you think about this? And it was like, you know, you'll have to pay for that. Like,
Um,
it gets so, and I understand it, but I'm also like, I think that there comes a point where like if that's the culture of your of the thing that you're doing, it starts to feel like really really isolating.
it's not a community, it's like
Yeah.
the yeah, I personally um am want more than anything to play games.
Mhm.
I am not running Wizard Staffing to make money, but like, hey, in like 10 years, if I can live off of just scheduling games, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, hey, you want to run a con? Reach out to me. Like, uh, let's talk. Because I enjoy playing TTRPGs. I enjoy writing TTRPGs, running TTRPGs, and just being able to orbit that closely by, um, you know, sipping on the communal effervescence that happens when there's 30 people in a room on the second floor loft of like a brewery who are all enjoying various indie titles and mainstream titles. Like that is what you should be excited for and trying to get into if you are in, like, I'll say, my line of work.
Yeah.
um it's very much about building the community, and I'm happy to say that, like, through building the community, I've had a number of opportunities in the graphic design space, utilizing my, skills, my kind of day job, that I would never have gotten had I not just spent some time and effort, building up Wizard Staffing Co. And again, not everybody has the skills, etc., to do something like this, but make sure your costs are covered. That's what we're doing. in terms of like what we're charging. You know, the recurring fees are like, again, printer paper,
Yeah.
printer paper toner, ads to make sure that people show up, ticketing stuff. But I think that unless you are charging 35 $50 a person, um, you might not be able to live off of that. And if you want to do that, that's totally cool. And I personally would be very concerned about delivering $50 worth of entertainment. You know, I feel like that I
Yeah,
personally would
that's
have
that's
feel a lot of
tough.
pressure, which, you know, I think more or less is kind of what you were stating before, which I totally agree with.
I think I was charging like 15ish, which I think was even a bit high, but it was like that was kind of the standard in a lot of that space.
Yeah.
And I think like honestly, part of it is like I feel like I had the opposite issue in the virtual environment that like to what you're saying is so good about physical paid games, which is like there was a sense of entitlement that came with having paid, where it was like, you know, I want to be the badass main character because I paid money to be in this game, uh,
Interesting. Yeah.
and that that ruined other people's experiences, um, and that's tough. And I imagine in an in-person environment that's less likely to happen because you see the other people's faces who also paid for this, and you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah.
GM who is here to work with you to make this an enjoyable experience for you. And there isn't that divide. There isn't that sort of it's not kind of this implaceable thing.
Yeah, I agree. I yeah, I there is something about being in person, and being able to feel the energy, right? Um, yeah, I agreed. Previous underscore W. I don't know what the
Yeah.
old name is. I can only see the name,
Previous
but like,
winter.
yeah, you're for $10 plus some taxes and fees, at Wisco, you're getting exactly. You're getting significantly more than sitting down and watching a movie for 2 hours. You're getting 4 hours of, TTRPG action with six other people, five, six other people.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't get that energy, or you don't get those looks in virtual spaces. With that being said, I mean, in 2020, doing Gen Con virtual or Gen Con online or whatever they called it, was super cool. I mean, I could
Mhm.
play with my good friend in, I think, New Zealand at the time, still attend a con together when they were not able to fly to, glorious Indianapolis
Mhm.
for a couple days. All of a sudden, we could game again and met a bunch of cool people from countries and people who would just physically not be able to make it to a convention, for various reasons. So I think virtual gaming is still very important, but there is something to in-person gaming and getting paid that feels a little bit more, um, I don't want to say easy, but like accomplishable. It's like it going to these events and not even running anything and not making any money at these events personally. I just get a lot of energy experiencing it.
Yeah. We actually have an email, by the way, from
Oh,
from
cool.
from from the person who brought us together, who has labeled themselves as finger guns here. Um,
Oh, tight.
they say, "Hello, Eclipse. Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship when the chat has spoken. You do not know how many offers I get for that shit. Uh, and they're not the big ones because if you have a certain audience, it's like the $800 sponsorships. I get like the like you have to like scrounge and beg like please get to level 10. If 15 people get to level 10, then I get $6. Like it's that shit. And I refuse to. Anyways, that part was a joke in the email. Um, the actual question is I run a lot of RPGs out of my home and usually love hosting, but I'm starting to burn out. Scheduling, teaching people rules, getting materials ready, cleaning my house, and feeding everyone is getting to be a lot. How do I pass some responsibilities back to the rest of the table? Thanks, finger guns. Hmm, interesting. I'd love
Uh,
to hear your thoughts on this.
Great.
Do you have any?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I had the opportunity, gosh, I think it was January or February of this year, to join in on a wonderful in-person session, with a bunch of folks who are playing Seven Park Pact, which I think that's still what it's called. Though I
Yeah,
have not been keeping up on Jay's notes,
good game.
and would love to spend more time playing it, but alas, time is always difficult. But the I think the host did a phenomenal job of providing a lot of things, and I think that the um, handful of folks brought things as well. I love that sort of communal kind of potluck style where if you're hosting, you're already doing enough to schedule it, bring everybody together, presumably run it. That I would hand off responsibilities like food and bev, especially to other folks. I'm also super guilty of this in that I enjoy cooking and I will think to myself, oh, I'll just make like two or three dishes too, you know?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it's like 2 hours before go time and I'm like, what have I done? Like, why am I doing this? Um, and so I have to, as a part of hosting any folks in similar ways, both commit to myself and luckily my I live with my partner and I can also make them help me commit to not doing certain things like going crazy trying to clean everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
scrub the toilet and then everything else is like, we're humans, so um enjoy our filth together. And it's very rarely even filthy, it's like it's just what we see sometimes. Again, a ramble. Hopefully that was
No,
valuable.
it's okay. Yeah, for me it's about like I think about this from a design perspective, which is that like I think that there are certain games, as you said, like Seven Part Pact, for example, is a game that really does this well, which is like there are games that are about letting some of that stuff off your shoulders. I would point towards like if you want something that's kind of more traditional fantasy, I would direct you towards I will always direct people towards Velmini's Velmini's Fellowship for a lot of different reasons, but for this reason in particular, a game that is constantly asking you to look towards the players and ask them what is true here, what are the facts, what's up with your people, what's up with this place, instead of coming up with all those decisions yourself, which I think is really really fantastic for a sort of fantasy game to open that up. And then kind of the I think of other like Zeeb I think is a good one also, like Seven Part Pact, like I think a lot of there's a lot of like indie games that I think really help with that. But obviously there's still going to be like labor that comes from facilitation. And so I would say like, seeing if maybe the folks that you play with would be open to like, swapping things off, or like, maybe you run a game and then they run a game. I certainly have a lot of folks that I do that with, and it helps a lot. It makes things really fun. It keeps things really varied. And yeah, I would say broadly just like being open to different types of experiences, having a group that's open to different types of experiences, and calling on your group to help you, as Sean said, like with some of the things that might be causing you trouble, or making things tricky.
I think just one more thing on teaching people the rules I think is really interesting because sometimes there are resources, assets out there that players can sink their teeth into to like learn about a system. Sometimes there's not, especially with indie RPGs. It might just be an itch.io page or
Mhm.
a YouTube video of somebody else playing it or talking about it or something. But even then, even with those references, even with those assets, sometimes people just show up to the table and just have no clue. Like they
Mhm.
didn't do the homework, right? And the homework was just like watch this 5-minute video. And it can be very, sometimes it costs a lot of spoons to then teach people the rules or like try and go through it, especially if you don't have a super great grasp of the rules too. So I think it's an interesting problem because there's a couple different a couple different ways that it can kind of weigh you down. And I'm just stating right now, like I don't have a good answer for it, other than maybe as a part of the I forget what it's called, but tell everybody don't read the rules, and then all of a sudden everybody reads them because they're like, well, why shouldn't we read the rules? No, but just have everybody do like a table read at the forefront, and bake that into the time might help and then perhaps that alleviates some pressure to feel like you have to know the rules well enough or 10, 20, 30% more than everybody else.
Get
Um,
some. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Get a session 0 in. Get some debrief time at the end of sessions. That's the thing that I've been doing recently that's helped so much. Yeah, that's kind of all I want to add. Sorry.
One last thing, and then I promise I'll shut up. I feel a very similar way with some of the responsibilities for Wizard Staffing Co., where I'm like, this work is work, and I don't want anybody else to have to do this work. But I know for myself, I really enjoy printing and stapling and collating and binding things together. Anything to do with the world of office supplies. I'm very much here for it, which other people will see as, okay, that's just like, I don't know, work that I don't want to do. So there are probably things that the other folks at your table might be interested in doing or would be happy to help out, especially if it's just, every couple of weeks or every month. And I personally need to stop thinking of these things as like menial tasks or things that I can't ask other people to do because many hands make light work. How do people say that?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Once a year your friend asks you to print a bunch of stuff and staple it, like you should be able to do that for them. So
yeah,
that's all I'll say about that.
I would also add, like, I think there's a lot of value in like when you're going to start a new game, if you're worried about teaching people the rules when they get there, you can just ask, like, hey, would you all prefer to play a game where you come with the rules in your head, or would you prefer to play a game that is sort of more naturalistic? Like, are you looking for something more rules light? Do you like? I think asking those sorts of questions and not just assuming things can be really helpful in that, and like setting yourself up for success by setting realistic expectations, I think, is really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good question.
Yeah, really, really good question. Let me let's see if we have anything else, but I think if we don't, I might just wrap up here. I'm getting into the deep dark. Yeah, the deep dark depths of that caffeine crash.
You're getting into the corn syrup phase of the Pepsi experience.
Yeah, I had the high fructose, and now the corn syrup is starting to fill me. Are there any like links or anything that you'd like to direct folks towards?
Yeah, totally. So especially if you're in the city of Chicago, check us out. I would say the best places to follow us would be Instagram. I just made a thread, so maybe that eventually, but not right now. You can follow us there, but there's not going to be anything there for a while, probably. And Eventbrite. So you can actually follow us on Eventbrite, and I can give you a link.
Yeah, I got Instagram. I think I might have Eventbrite. Let's see if I can. Is it on your link tree?
Kind of.
There's Substack.
You can subscribe to us or follow us on Eventbrite, which just means you get email notifications whenever we publish a new event, which is the best way to know about specific events that we have. Instagram's a pretty good means to do that too. And Instagram's also a great place to reach out. So earlier on, when we were talking about potentially connecting with GM cohorts like Wizard Staffing Co. to have your 85-90% done, alpha beta play tested material brought to a wider audience, drop me a message on Instagram and I'd be happy to chat more.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna raid someone, I think. Raid out of here. We're gonna raid Skullvolver, who's playing the Cyberpunk 2077 DLC, Phantom Liberty, I think it was called. I really enjoyed that DLC, and also I liked Skullvolver was in the Minecraft Balloon SMP, which I watched, which I thought was really cool. So guys, go say hi to Skullvolver, and yeah, take care, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody.
Remember, if you don't like what you see, you can change it. It's up to you, really. Goodbye, good luck, and have fun!